Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know. First, Anthropic secures billions from rivals Google and Amazon, leveraging hardware arbitrage to dominate the AI arms race. We'll analyse why this co-opetition is a turning point and how it could affect competitive dynamics in the AI industry. Second, the US government becomes Intel's largest shareholder with an $8.9 billion stake, a strategic move in the global chip war. We'll explore how this unprecedented public-private partnership could transform US tech policy and semiconductor supply chain strategy. Third, US authorities seize a record $14 billion in crypto tied to a scam-as-a-service empire, exploiting Western regulatory blind spots. This discussion will reveal how these fraud factories exploit global financial loopholes and what it means for future anti-money laundering enforcement. Fourth, the EU threatens Meta and TikTok with billion-dollar fines for violating the Digital Services Act by restricting researcher data access. So we'll discuss why this regulatory showdown matters and what it means for the future of tech platform accountability and global standards. Fifth, Meta replaces its FTC-mandated human privacy team with an AI system, challenging the foundation of regulatory oversight in Silicon Valley. We'll examine how this shift to AI for compliance may impact regulatory enforcement and set a new precedent for corporate accountability. An AI company is taking billions of dollars from two sworn enemies, Google and Amazon, and it's openly playing them against each other. A while back, we talked about how Anthropic's integration-first strategy was building a powerful integration moat. The latest development is the other half of that playbook: scale, massive industrial-scale compute to feed those integrations everywhere. You might be asking, why would these fierce competitors both pour money into the same startup? The answer lies in a new form of co-opetition, a strategic move to counter the powerful alliance between Microsoft and OpenAI. By funding Anthropic, both Google and Amazon get access to a top-tier AI model to integrate into their own cloud platforms, ensuring they don't fall behind. It's a classic case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, at least for now. The latest bombshell: AI powerhouse Anthropic just signed a deal with Google worth tens of billions of dollars. This gives them access to up to 1 million of Google's custom AI chips, its largest ever commitment. Google says this also aims to bring over 1 gigawatt of AI compute online by 2026, an enormous expansion of raw capacity. And these aren't just any chips. We're talking about Google's tensor processing units, or TPUs. Unlike general-purpose GPUs from NVIDIA, which are like a versatile Swiss Army knife, Google's TPUs are custom-built for one thing: running massive AI models at incredible speeds. Think of it like a Formula One car versus a family sedan. This deal is a huge vote of confidence in Google's custom hardware in the global battle for AI dominance. And as we've discussed before, Anthropic's bet isn't just on better models, it's on the infrastructure that turns those models into real workflows at scale. But that's not the whole picture. The real turning point is that Anthropic's single biggest investor isn't Google, it's Amazon. The cloud giant has already poured a staggering $8 billion into Anthropic, more than double Google's confirmed $3 billion investment, and is considered its chief cloud provider. The reason for this feeding frenzy? Anthropic's growth is off the charts. Its annual revenue is approaching $7 billion. It powers more than 300,000 businesses, and its coding assistant, Claude Code, hit $500 million in annualized revenue in only 2 months. This isn't abstract either. We previously highlighted how Novo Nordisk cut clinical documentation analysis from over 10 weeks down to just 10 minutes using Claude. Multiply that across 300,000 businesses, and you see why Anthropic is racing to lock down a gigawatt of compute. This is all part of a brilliant strategy. Anthropic isn't loyal to anyone. It runs its AI on Google's TPUs, Amazon's Trainium chips, and NVIDIA's GPUs, picking and choosing to get the best price and performance. It's a strategy that experts call hardware arbitrage, and it's remarkably effective. What's fascinating is that each of these chips has a unique strength. Anthropic can use Amazon's Trainium chips, which offer up to 50% cost savings for training its models. Then, for other tasks that need raw power, it can switch to Google's high-performance TPUs. By not being locked into one provider, Anthropic can cherry-pick the best tool for every single job, optimizing for both cost and power in a way its rivals can't. This diversified approach is so effective, Anthropic's AI wasn't even affected by a recent massive AWS outage. Exactly the kind of multi-cloud resilience we flagged when we covered their integration-first strategy. Continuing our last discussion on governance and risk. This scale-up raises the stakes. The legal landscape around AI-assisted research is still a minefield who's liable when things go wrong. That's unresolved. Anthropic's constitutional AI approach, having the model check itself against a set of principles, has been a key differentiator. And with a gigawatt of compute coming online, that trust and safety layer becomes as strategic as the chips themselves. Anthropic has made it clear it has no exclusive deals. By leveraging the intense rivalry between the world's biggest cloud providers, it's not just building AI, it's building an empire. We were just talking about the massive compute power needed for AI. Well, that brings us to the very foundation of that power, semiconductors, and a huge move by the US government to control them. The story begins with a decision that caught everyone by surprise. The United States government just became the largest shareholder in the tech giant Intel. Now, this isn't like the auto industry bailouts of 2008. This is a proactive strategic move to use the nation's wallet to secure its critical technology supply chain. It's a key play in the global chip war, and as we've said before, access, not just demand, is the real constraint. This stake is the policy counterpart to that reality, guaranteed access to leading-edge capacity on US soil. Through an $8.9 billion investment negotiated by the Trump administration, the government now holds over 433 million shares. And here's an update. This week's earnings, the first since that stake was disclosed, came in better than expected, sending the stock higher and underscoring that the PC side of the business is stabilizing. But the way Intel is handling that money is so unusual. The company itself is warning investors that there is, quote, limited precedent for the accounting treatment of such transactions. The reason this is causing such a stir is that government equity stakes in public companies are so rare, there's no official rule book for how to report this on the balance sheet. Intel is essentially inventing a financial reporting method and hoping the SEC signs off. The uncertainty is a big deal because it could set a whole new and potentially controversial playbook for future public-private national security partnerships. Intel has asked the Securities and Exchange Commission for approval, but it doesn't have an answer yet and warns it may have to revise its financial results. Here's where it gets interesting. Intel just took a $5 billion investment from its one-time arch-rival NVIDIA. That's the same NVIDIA that currently dominates 90% of the crucial AI chip market. The two former competitors will now integrate Intel's processors with NVIDIA's AI graphics processors. When we place their decades-long bitter rivalry alongside this new partnership, the question becomes, why now? It's a strategic alliance to dominate the future of computing. NVIDIA gets to pair its market-leading AI GPUs with Intel's custom-built CPUs. For Intel, it's a lifeline and a massive vote of confidence from the king of AI. This all comes as Intel is in the middle of a massive shakeup, having cut its workforce by nearly 36,000 employees. While its PC chip business is recovering, its foundry division, which required a $100 billion capital investment, has yet to secure a major customer. Part of that bet includes snapping up ASML's next-generation high-end AEUV machines, an arms race move meant to leapfrog rivals. But building a successful foundry is about more than just technology, it's about trust and culture. For years, Intel's entire culture was built around making its own chips. Its rival, TSMC, built its empire by being obsessively customer-focused. To win, Intel doesn't just need to build better factories, it needs to completely transform its corporate DNA. That is an incredibly difficult pivot. Intel's CEO told investors they, quote, proudly welcome the US government as their essential partner between an unprecedented government stake and a frenemy alliance with a competitor. Intel is betting its entire future on a radical transformation. It's no longer just a chip company. It's now a high-stakes national project. From a massive strategic government investment to a massive government seizure. The US government just announced its largest cryptocurrency bust ever, $14 billion. And the man they accuse of masterminding it all isn't some shadowy hacker. He's a 37-year-old tycoon who was an official advisor to Cambodia's prime minister. So how does someone even begin to launder $14 billion in crypto? Believe it or not, these criminal syndicates use incredibly sophisticated methods. We're talking about mixes to obscure origins and chain hopping between blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum to make funds almost untraceable. Then they use unregulated over-the-counter desks, often in Hong Kong, to convert those digital assets into cold, hard cash, completely bypassing the global banking system. Chen. To the public, he was a respected entrepreneur and renowned philanthropist. His Prince Group built luxury hotels, started an airline, and he was even awarded the highest title bestowed by Cambodia's king. And this isn't an anomaly. It's part of a disturbing pattern. Some research suggests this type of operation can become a twisted feature of a country's economic development. When a nation is desperate for foreign capital, it can create what some call a symbiotic relationship. The state gets massive investment, and in return, it might just tolerate these massive criminal enterprises operating right under its nose. But the US Department of Justice has a different description: the mastermind of a criminal enterprise built on human suffering. Authorities allege his immense wealth came from a vast online fraud network. The US and UK have now sanctioned 128 companies and 17 individuals linked to his Prince Group, accusing them of sextortion, money laundering, and the industrial-scale trafficking and torture of enslaved workers forced to run scams. What's truly chilling is that these aren't just random boiler rooms. They are highly organised fraud factories running what experts now call scam as a service. They use advanced tech like CRM software and AI-generated scripts. But the most brutal part is the human supply chain. The United Nations reports hundreds of thousands of people have been trafficked into these scam compounds where they face horrific abuse. In 2023 alone, Americans lost a staggering $3.5 billion to these very scams. While his company was allegedly running these operations, Chen was buying a £12 million mansion in London, a private jet, and even a Picasso. A journalist who investigated him noted that lawyers, accountants, and bankers all should have seen the red flags, but simply didn't. But why didn't they? After all, the systems are supposed to prevent this. The investigation suggests he exploited huge blind spots in Western anti-money laundering regulations. Criminals use complex webs of anonymous shell companies, so when a figure like Chen comes along to buy a mansion in cash, it can bypass the know your customer checks that are meant to be a firewall for our financial system. Now, with US, UK, and Chinese authorities investigating, businesses are rushing to dissociate themselves from his empire. But for the Cambodian ruling elite who is so close to him, distancing themselves will be far more difficult. As for Chen himself, he appears to have vanished. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. For many international criminals, vanishing is a well-practiced art, often aided by citizenship by investment programs or golden passports. For the right price, certain countries sell citizenship, granting a new identity and visa-free travel, a critical tool for criminals to evade law enforcement and essentially erase their past. While US authorities are cracking down on financial crime, on the other side of the Atlantic, European regulators are waging a different kind of war against big tech. The European Union just put social media giants Meta and TikTok on notice, and the potential penalty is an absolute bombshell. The EU's executive arm has preliminarily found that both companies are breaching its landmark Digital Services Act, or DSA. The battle is being fought over the DSA, one of the most ambitious pieces of tech regulation in the world. Its goal is to make the online world safer and force platforms to be more transparent. By targeting a major US company and a Chinese-owned one at the same time, the EU is positioning itself as the globe's tech referee, creating what experts call the Brussels effect, where EU rules often become the de facto global standard. The core accusation, they're failing to give researchers adequate access to their public data. In other words, the EU is accusing them of keeping the keys to their kingdom under lock and key. So what does adequate access really mean here? Well, researchers aren't just asking for random data. They need to see things like ad targeting information, the real reach of content, and moderation logs. This is the only way to independently verify what's going viral and whether platforms are actually enforcing their own rules. For Meta, the charges go even deeper. The EU says they've also failed to provide simple ways for users to report illegal content. The stakes are incredibly high because without this data, some of the most important questions of our time go unanswered For example, researchers are currently blocked from truly understanding how features like infinite scroll influence teen mental health or how content promoting eating disorders spreads. This is the forbidden research the EU wants to unlock. The Commission's findings state that the company's burdensome procedures leave researchers with partial or unreliable data, hindering their work. Both companies are pushing back. Meta disagrees with the findings, while TikTok, interestingly enough, claims the EU's demands put its own laws in direct tension with each other, pointing to an apparent conflict between the DSA's transparency rules and the GDPR's privacy rules. Now, this is a very clever argument, but legal experts say these two laws were actually designed to work together. The DSA includes provisions for anonymizing data to protect privacy while still allowing for research. So the holdup seems to be less about a true legal contradiction and more about the massive operational challenge, or perhaps unwillingness to build systems that can do both. This showdown isn't just a war of words. If these findings are upheld, the consequences are staggering. A fine of up to 6% of the company's total worldwide annual turnover. A fine of billions of dollars seems like a massive risk. So you have to ask, why take it? It may come down to a cold business calculation. The cost of building truly transparent data access systems is enormous. But perhaps more importantly, full transparency could expose proprietary algorithms or, even worse, reveal unflattering data about a platform's negative societal impact. They may be weighing the cost of the fine against the cost of revealing their secrets. Speaking of Meta's regulatory battles, the company is making a new move that's raising eyebrows with a different regulator, the FTC. In a move that's sending ripples through Silicon Valley, the very team Meta created to satisfy regulators after its massive Cambridge Analytica privacy scandal is now being replaced by artificial intelligence. This all goes back to that scandal, which resulted in a record-shattering $5 billion fine from the Federal Trade Commission. What many forget is that the FTC order wasn't just about the money. The settlement was designed specifically to impose human accountability on Meta's privacy practices. The entire spirit of the order was to have real people with real judgment in the room, making sure a disaster like that never happened again. Part of that settlement forced Meta to build a new risk organization staffed with humans. Now, an undisclosed number of those same employees are being laid off. Their job of reviewing products for risks is being handed over to AI. But what does that even mean? We're not talking about some super intelligent consciousness. As we've discussed, when companies say basic automation, they often mean a complex rules engine. Think of it like a very advanced checklist that provides instant decisions. The critical question this raises is, who is legally and financially liable when this automated system inevitably misses a critical privacy flaw that a human team might have caught? Meta claims this is about innovation and speed. A company VP posted that they are not using AI to make decisions, but that automation is being applied to reduce review times and increase reliability because there's less room for human error. So is this really about innovation? If you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. This move effectively automates a legally mandated cost center. This isn't a customer-facing role. It's an internal watchdog department that was forced upon them. Some experts are calling this the new corporate cost-cutting playbook, using AI efficiency to hollow out the very ethics and compliance teams that are expensive and slow things down. And this isn't just a Meta story. The AI-driven job replacement wave is already hitting Wall Street and Silicon Valley. We've already walked through Klarna's deep cuts and Lufthansa's long-term reductions attributed to AI, and the broader pattern of companies using the AI story to send a "we're high-tech" signal to investors. In fact, research shows this is a growing trend. A recent survey found that over a third of companies are already using AI in their compliance departments, with efficiency being the number one reason. Yet a while back we highlighted research showing minimal direct layoff impact from AI, so far making Meta's shift stand out because it targets a regulator-mandated function. At JP Morgan Chase, the finance chief reportedly told managers to avoid hiring people amid a broader AI rollout. And Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff was even more direct, confirming his company would cut 4,000 customer support roles, stating he needs less heads with AI. This isn't a future prediction. It's happening now. The push for AI efficiency is actively replacing human jobs, including the very oversight roles that were created to hold these tech giants accountable. We've said before that some firms use AI as a narrative cover. Today's twist is that the code is moving into a seat regulators explicitly wanted a human to occupy. It challenges the entire foundation of regulatory enforcement and leaves us all wondering, who is actually minding the store.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.